I was looking around the plant room the other day, and I looked over and noticed there were several plants that I've never shown on the channel. They're almost like they're forgotten Hoyas. So I thought it's time to drag them out, bring them out, put them in front of the camera, and give them their little moment of fame. So join me today with a tasty beverage of your choice close to hand while we take a look at 7 forgotten Hoyas, one who's in bloom, and I talk about the most frequently asked question on the channel. And before we get underway, thanks again to everybody who took the time to answer last week's question about what was your other plant. There were the usual cast of characters, Scindapsus, Anthurium, people who could get those plants to grow for them. That's not me. But the ones that kept coming up were orchids and ripsalis. And I thought, well, okay, it's an epiphyte thing. If you can grow Hoyas, you can grow those other two. Or if you can grow those other two, you can grow a Hoya. So the kids are all lined up over here, and there's one over there. So let's get underway. And the first little beast up today is my Hoya polyneura Broget. Now, it's not French, it's not Broget. It's a Danish word that means varied, or in terms of plants, variegated. Hoya polyneura is native to Assam, south central China, the East Himalayas, Laos, Myanmar, Nepal, and Tibet. So it seems to be a cooler growing Hoya. It was first published in 1883 in the Flora of British India. And these leaves are just beautiful. This was, for a while, the it plant. You couldn't find these for love or money. Well, you could find them for money, but you'd have to mortgage your house to afford it. So I got one as a thank you cutting. It was a little 2-leaf. Matter of fact, these 2 leaves, I don't want to pour water everywhere, these 2 leaves were the original cutting. And, it was really hip and really cool, and I wasn't sure. I mean, I've never been hip and cool, so I wasn't sure if I wanted to enter into that competition. But it was a free cutting, so I thought, let's give it a try. So I moved it to pond, self-watering, wick-based self-watering, and put it fairly close to grow lights. And this little puppy took off. It took it, let's say, 4 to 5 weeks to settle in, to get the roots reestablished, and then it just started growing. I mean, it shot out like crazy. And it was growing so well, I thought I'd take some cuttings, and so I sold a couple cuttings. One of them was right here, so this is all new since then. And after I took a couple cuttings, it just stopped. It was really weird. It just stopped. Okay, well, So I thought I'll give it cooler temperatures. I'll give it a little bit gentler light. And I moved it out of the Hoya room into my bedroom. And I've got southwest facing windows. But it's a little cooler through the winter, so I thought, okay. And then it did nothing. It just sat there. No issues, no drama, no trauma, no pests, no nothing going on. Happy. And then when I was reworking the Hoya room this spring, I thought, well, let's bring it back in. And actually, I was, on one of the rare occasions when I clean, and I was cleaning the bedroom, I thought, I should bring this back in and put it with its other friends. So I did that and set it under milder lights. The Hoya room doesn't get terribly cool, but all of a sudden, this new growth, there's another growth point activating here, and I guess he likes where he is now. He's never bloomed for me. I'm still not sure whether or not I like it. It's a monster plant. I mean, it's really for a pot this size, this plant is heavy. But the leaves are gorgeous. It's growing up a storm. So, I'm going to keep him around. This is Hoya polyneura Broget. And the next kit up is this little monster. This is a Hoya burmanica. Now, Hoya burmanica was originally found in Burma, now known as Myanmar, which would probably be a good reason to call it burmanica. But it's native to Assam, Bangladesh, Myanmar, Thailand, and Vietnam. And it was first published in 1920 in the Bulletin of Miscellaneous Information, Royal Gardens, Kew. And I kind of like the title of that, the Bulletin of Miscellaneous Information. I'd settle down with a copy of that some evening. Now, this is, for me, I thought of a whole bunch of other words, but let's just say diva plant. It grows for me, despite it having... Man, if this plant doesn't get its water on a regular basis, it throws a hissy fit and drops a bunch of leaves. If something's not going its way, then the vines die back. And it's never bloomed for me. Now, it's really pretty. Let's see if I can get... I don't know if I can find a way to show off some leaves. It's very pretty. I love the shape of the leaves. There's a little bit of splash on them. Oh, okay. I may have to rescind my bad. I just noticed peduncles, so maybe it will bloom. Please. I originally ordered it because I love the leaves. They're very cool. There'll be some close-ups in the video. And the comment was made that it set peduncles on every node and bloomed and bloomed and bloomed. And, well, someone hasn't been performing to their best. Look, it's huge. It's literally huge. It's 2 feet, 3 feet across. But then there's lots of dead branches and lost leaves, and you always have to clean up after your Hoyas, vacuuming the floor and stuff, but this one, you look at the floor and you look up at it and go, what did I do? Tell me what I did. I'm sorry. If you're interested in one of these, be prepared for diva-like behavior. Be prepared for gorgeousness, because that's really, 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 really pretty. Very neat, but this one has tested my patience on numerous occasions. But I see peduncles, so okay, we're going to give it a chance. I'm not going to mess with it anymore. It's going back to it's got a section on a wall. It was growing on the grow shelves, and then this happened, and it just wouldn't work there. So it's got a space on the wall. Fingers crossed, I can't wait to see blooms on this. This is Hoya burmanica. wrestling with that last monster. Anyway, next one up is this Hoya verticillata, formerly known as acuta. And I saw this on somebody's channel, like we all do, and thought that's really, really neat. So I ordered one, and it took a long time to get established. A long time. And then it put out these big green leaves, which is okay. I mean, that's fine, but that's not why I ordered it. I ordered it for this, which is very, very pretty. And it took a long time for that to happen. And it took a few cuttings. I thought, okay, I had a few vines that were just coming in solid green, and I thought, that's not what I want. I want this other one over here, so I cut back some of the stuff. It's kind of a funky little plant. If you look, look at this node. One of the leaves is solid green. Where is it? There it is. And the other leaf at the node is variegated. It's just, I just take it as it is. I can't do much about it. It seems happy enough. There's a new leaf in there. It's putting out growth. It's growing fairly close. I need to do some trellising work. Ooh, don't. Okay, there we go. It's growing fairly close to a grow light, so right up here. And it's just pretty. I'm living with the solid green vines, because like this vine has that one variegated leaf, and then everything else on it is green. So maybe it's time to give it a little more attention and do a little bit more cutting. But anyway, I didn't talk about this one. This was originally known as Hoya acuta. It was synonymized into verticillata in 2002, along with apparently everybody else. Verticillata is found in Andaman Islands, Assam, Bangladesh, Borneo, Cambodia, South Central and Southeast China, the East Himalayas, Hainan Island, India, Java, Laos, the Lesser Sunda Islands, Malaya, Myanmar, Nicobar Islands, Philippines, Sulawesi, Sumatra, Taiwan, Thailand, and Vietnam. I was not able to find out exactly where acuta was from. It was first published in 1921 and this is Latin, so I'm going to read it, Revisiones Planetarium Succulentarum. So Revisiones Plantarum Succulentarum, which is the review of succulent plants. And as we all know, while Hoyas may be succulent, lowercase s, they are not succulents, uppercase s. So anyway, this was published by Adrian Hardy Haworth. So this is, it's neat. It's been doing well for me. It would probably like a taller trellis, but I'm running out of all kinds of space. So it's going to live on this for a while. This is Hoya verticillata, formerly known as Hoya acuta. Next up, we have my Hoya flagellata. Now, Hoya flagellata has been synonymized into caudata, which sort of makes sense, since when you look at these leaves and you look at the blooms, Those of you familiar with this will say, oh yeah, well, if I can get it to focus, you would say it. Until then, you're going to just trust me that they look like Hoya caudata blooms. So Hoya flagellata was first published in 1940 in Hooker's Icones Plantarum, which is Hooker's Icon of Plants. It didn't do much for a little while. You know, when you move them into pond, I keep saying that, they're gonna need to reestablish themselves. And once this one did, it's just been doing really, really well. It started blooming for the first time this year and has bloomed several times. Let's see if I can get... And Hoya caudata got its name from the, let's see if this shows it off better, from the tails. So this has been doing really well. This is a neat plant. It's like caudata without as much splash. There is some, let's see if I can find a leaf that's sure, there's one here. So there's a little bit of splash, but it's kind of subtle. It's not like Sumatra or gold or silver. Those both have like lots of splash. But this one has done really well. It's got kind of woody vines, so it wants a steady supply of water. It does not like to dry out. The vines won't, the leaves won't wilt or anything like that. They'll get a little funky looking, but no big deal. It will pop back. And once it starts blooming, it does, I mean, they're very cool in there. There'll be some close-ups in the video, maybe some stills too. We'll see if I can remember to do that. Anyway, this is Hoya caudata, formerly known as Hoya flagellata. And my next little friend up is Hoya kanyakumariana. Now, kanyakumariana is native to the Tamil Nadu state in India, and for you geography people, that's like down here. It was first published in 1979 in the Journal of the Bombay Natural History Society by Ambrose Nathaniel Henry and Mangudi Srinivasan Swaminathan. This has just been a very, very cool little plant. It's in the blooming process right now, and it had blooms just the other day, and now we're back down to buds. So I think I have some pictures that I can add to this. The leaves are very cool. Let's make sure I don't dump the whole thing out. Nice, small, little green leaves. Ruffled edges. I don't know why I know why I forget about this plant. It gives me no trouble whatsoever. It's under fairly bright light, close to the grow light. It gets watered regularly. And this year it started blooming. And it's just a cool little plant. I mean, it's just very neat. I mean, those leaves are pretty. It probably deserves a better trellis, and that may happen if I remember to do that. But it's a very cool little plant. As I said, it's like no care, no drama, no trauma. Plus I've got a lot. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. There's 12. There's at least a dozen peduncles on here in various stages of budding up or blooming or whatever. Yeah, very, very happy with this one. This is definitely one to look for. If you like a Hoya that's not going to get insane on you, although this one comes up and comes back around, it's not going to get crazy. It's not going to take over the plant room. It's going to be really interesting to look at, and it will bloom. Hoya kanyakumariana. And next up we have my Hoya incrassata, variegated, outer variegation. Now, Hoya incrassata is native to the Philippines. It was first published in 1904 in Fragmenta Florae Philippinae, which is Fragments of the Philippine Flora by Otto Warburg, and we've heard his name before on the channel. This one is kind of neat. It's another Hoya that I might refer to as a diva. When I moved this one, I had it in a smaller pot. It did okay. When I moved it, I found out that there were 3 cuttings in the pot, in the original pot. So I cleaned them up, moved them into this, and one of the cuttings didn't make it. The other 2, one of them pouted terribly, and the other one just got on to growing. And the one that pouted pouts regularly. If the reservoir runs out of moisture, the leaves look awful. Just, they wrinkle up, they're entirely disappointing. The other vine, the other cutting in this pot, that doesn't seem to faze it. So, you get these really neat leaves sometimes. Sometimes you get that. And they're kind of funky. I mean, that's interesting. There's a little bit of variegation on the edge of the leaf, and it's putting out new stuff. And it's funny, from this side of the leaf, I can see where the variegation will be and isn't yet. So, yeah, it's been a bit of a diva. I bought another one, which is a cutting, which I showed you a couple weeks back. And when it came, one of the leaves looked fine, and the other leaf looked like it had a rough day, a really rough day. Wrinkled, nasty looking, you expect it to die off. So I put it into pond and self-watering and gave it decent light, and it's now looking good again. So I have a feeling that incrassata doesn't respond well to any kind of stress. Let's put it that way. But this one's growing. There's a new leaf there, which looks like it might prove interesting. We'll see. But again, another one that sits on the shelf and is right now doing fairly well. It needs a better trellis. And since it's decided to grow happily, that we'll get a better trellis. This is Hoya incrassata, outer variegation. the next one up is going to be a bit of a labor, but here we go. This is my hoyacarnosa Chelsea. Now, I can't specifically find out where Chelsea was first entered as a cultivar, where it developed, but hoyacarnosa, give me a moment while Hoyacarnosa is native to southeast and south central China, Hainan Island, Japan, Laos, Nansei Shoto, the southwest islands of Japan, and Taiwan. It has since been introduced into Bangladesh, Fiji, Korea, the Solomon Islands, and Trinidad and Tobago, which is like the other side of the world. There's a story there, and I'd be curious to know what it is. It was first published in 1810 on the Asclepiadae, a natural order of plants separated from the there's Greek and French and English in this title. So, on the Asclepiadae, a natural order of plants separated from the Apocinae of Jussieu. Jussieu was a French botanist. So, okay, that's my linguistic triathlon for today. Anyway, this plant has been doing very well for me. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm handling you so badly. There we go. I just recently moved it into one of these self-watering pots, so it's still settling in, but the leaves all feel good. It's put out some new growth, and I think it's going to appreciate this new setup. I was not interested in this plant at all. I've got to rest my arm for a bit. I had seen it online on somebody's video, and I looked at it and went, I ain't gonna. Well, number one, it was a carnosa, and I was a Hoya snob, and carnosa, yeah, fine. And then it wasn't variegated, it wasn't splashy, it wasn't anything that I wanted when I was new into collecting Hoyas. So I didn't pay any attention. And then I was walking through one of my big box stores. I think it was the blue one. And I looked down and saw this. Well, it wasn't this big. And saw this plant and went, that's a Hoyacarnosa Chelsea. And I reached down and I touched the leaves, and it was over. It was coming home with me. That was back in the days when plants this size were like $20 from that big plant company. So this one has not bloomed for me yet. Carnosas take a while to settle in and feel comfortable before they bloom. But if you find one out and about, the leaves are just, let's see if I can get it. Oh man, there's water in the reservoir too, so that's just adding to the joy. The leaves are interesting, somewhat reminiscent of, this one would be a good one, somewhat reminiscent of Crinkle 8, and I don't know whether or not there's a connection between the two. Oh, Lordy. But it's a really neat plant. It's done very well. No trouble, no trauma, no drama. It just grows. Really happy. I should weigh this just out of curiosity. But it's been a good plant. You can find them in the big box stores, and if you want just a big growing Hoya, Hoyacarnosa Chelsea. And the next one up, I featured recently in my Long Boy Hoya video, and I'll put a link to that up here. and nothing much has changed about it. It's still a gorgeous plant, but it bloomed a lot, and I'm really excited. These blooms are good sized. So this is Hoya griffithii. Now, a little more information. Hoya griffithii is native to Assam, South Central and Southeast China, Hainan Island, Laos, and Vietnam, and it was first published in 1883 in the Flora of British India by our friend Joseph Dalton Hooker. And look, that's just beautiful. And there's lots of them. There's lots of them. That's just, I mean, wow. You can perhaps appreciate my excitement. I mean, the leaves are gorgeous. We talked about that before. They're beautifully splashy and everything else. This has tried to bloom a couple times and it's blasted the peduncles, but oh, look at that. Just, it's like, that's just very cool. They are so neat, so pretty. Yeah, I'm over the moon on this one, beside myself with excitement. And the blossoms have lasted for a few days now, so that's even better. Yeah, I just wanted to share this again because last time it wasn't in bloom and this time it is, and I mean, those, you know, they're good size. They're probably, I don't have my handy dandy measuring tape nearby, I would say 1 inch across each. So yeah, this is very cool. I'm just excited. I go in to visit this at least every day, at least once a day, if I'm being honest. Yeah, we did all the business about this. This is Hoya griffithii. Most asked question on the channel is, where do I get my tower trellises? And the answer is, I make them. And lots of people have done tower trellis videos, so why should I not do one as well? So here's how I go about making my tower trellises. You will need a roll of what's sometimes called rabbit fencing, garden wire. It's not chicken wire. Chicken wire tends to be finer and not as sturdy. This typically comes in 12-inch, 24-inch, and 36-inch this dimension. I don't know whether that's width or height. I suppose it depends on, you know. Anyway, I've seen it available in plain wire, in green and in black. I would suggest getting the green or the black because it's PVC coated and will have lesser tendency to rust. I got black because my wire shelves are black and it kind of fit with the hole. Anyway, so you'll need, this is a 24-inch length. You'll need 36 inches is a really tall. I wouldn't go 36 inches because they tend to get very top heavy and, you know, so 24 inches is my suggestion. You will need a pair of wire cutters. Not necessarily this particular brand or style, but something with some heft to it. You will need what I know as needle nose pliers. Looking like this. Neither one of these are terribly expensive. Don't spend a fortune on them. You don't need to. And a tube, something round. This I don't even know where this came from, but I've held onto it for that purpose. A 1 liter soda bottle, it will work, but it's a little flimsy. A Bacardi bottle, a wine bottle, something with some stability and strength, structural strength to it is what you'll need. So, oh, and where is it? I guess I did have my measuring tape. Anyway, it's not here right now. I hate when that happens. So what I do is I take the pot and I measure the circumference with a measuring tape. And whatever that number is, divide it by 2, because the units on these are 3 inches tall and 2 inches wide. So you're going to have 2-inch units wrapping around. For this particular pot, it's 12 inches. It just happens to be 12 inches. If it were 15 inches, then you would narrow it down to something divisible by 2, what it comes down to. So you take your 12-inch circumference and divide by 2, and it's 6. If it were 15 inches, you would divide it by 2, and that's 7.5, and you can't do a half, so you do 7. 7 or 6 2-inch units. Okay? Now you'll notice that these on this particular roll are open here. You want that. I'll refer to these as the fingers. So I did my math. I measured around. My trellis needs to be, the wire I cut needs to be 6 units along. So roll out a little bit and I'll go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And as Norm Abrams on This Old House taught us, measure twice, cut once. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So you want to have this section closed. I know this is difficult to see. If I could think of a better way, I would. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You want this section closed and fingers left over here. So you're going to cut outside all the way down. And that leaves you with this. So you have flush end closed, open side with the fingers. Take off the bottom ring so that you have fingers along the bottom as well. And I have not yet found a use for this. Recycle it. And then take off the bottom finger. And you'll see why in a bit. Now, on my needle nose pliers, I have made, where is it? A mark. You can see there's a black line right there. And that's from doing this a number of times, and I have learned that that's the point. And I'm hopefully going to create close-ups of all this to show you. So, you're going to put the wire on the finger, through the needle nose pliers at your mark, till it comes out the other side, and then you're going to give it a 180-degree turn. And I'll do that one more time, and then I'll hopefully shoot a close-up of this after I do this, and I can splice them together and make it look really professional and cool. So I'm looking at the side with the line on it, and I'm going to go 180 degrees. And now I'm not looking at the side with the line on it, and what I've done is to create, can I show that? A small hook. And you're going to do that all the way down this side until you get to the bottom. And you have a whole series of hooks all the way down the side. Easy peasy. Now, here's the trick. I don't know if it's a trick. Here's what I do. And I'll insert video of me doing it here. So future me, record that and put it in here. And the next step is where our paper tube comes in handy. We're going to pre-roll the trellis. It's just going to make your life easier. It's a little step that just really helps. So put the tube on the inside and just roll it all the way down. Roll the fingers too. It's best to do it on a stable surface. I usually use my kitchen counter, but it's a really bad place to shoot. So, and then do it the other way. Do the other side. And just roll it. And like I said, you can use a wine bottle. You can use, I found Bacardi bottles just to be about the right size. You just need something that's close to the size of the pot you're going to put the trellis in. And so now, if you notice, it's already pretty rounded. So after giving it your pre-roll, then hook the top hook underneath the top edge and crimp it. Pliers, any kind of pliers. And do the same all the way down the side to the bottom one. And when you get to the bottom one, crimp that. Now you can go back up step by step and just crimp all the other hooks. By doing the top and the bottom, you help it. You won't have to struggle with it as much. You won't have to argue with it. And close them all up. And give it a look, and it should be pretty good, but if you need to make some little adjustments, you can. Now you'll notice that the extra slot I cut out of the bottom, that's where any vine is going to come out from inside. Be careful, these two edges will scratch your leaves and cause latex flow, and we don't need that. So open it up a little bit, tweak it. Remember, this isn't rocket science, it's not brain surgery. Don't get ate up about making these perfectly. Your Hoyas are not going to complain. So I tend to spread these bottom fingers out a little bit, and once my plant is settled in its pot, with whatever medium I'm using, I just sneak it right in, down to the first ring. It works better when there's pond in here. And there you go. There's your Hoya tower trellis. Easy peasy. And someone commented the last time that I had been very optimistic about putting a tall trellis on a very small plant. I'm always optimistic about that because if your plant doesn't grow that tall, it's very easy to trim this shorter. But if your plant does grow this tall, it's a pain in the butt to add another extension on top of this. I've done it. It involves zip ties and everything else to try and make it stable. It's just never the same. So I always start with a taller trellis than what I think I'm going to need. Hope that was helpful. And the question for this week is your wish list. Is it electronic or is it physical? Just curious. I'm old and old-fashioned about something, so I love actually writing out my list. And then when I get something, drawing a line through it, that's very, very satisfying as opposed to just erasing and deleting. It feels like a victory, you know? So is your list physical or electronic, or do you just keep it all in your head, which I can't do? And what plant is on the top of it? At the top of my list is Hoya chloroluca. It's got white blossoms with this beautiful emerald green center. And the only place I found them is overseas. I did find some in the US, but I'm not paying that kind of money. So I want to thank you for choosing to spend a little bit of time with me this week's end. Please remember to click the thumbs up like button, the subscribe button. A lot of you don't subscribe. Please do it. It's really important and it doesn't cost you anything. And click the notification bell. That's important to the channel too. A lot of the products you've seen me use are available in my Amazon storefront. I get a small commission on the sales, but it doesn't change your price at all. If you'd like to support the channel financially, you can click on the link in the description to my Buy Me a Coffee page, or there's a thing with 3 dots down here. If you click on that, there should be a thanks button through YouTube, and you can make a contribution there. And what else? I'm going to put links to a couple videos over on the side here, as I usually do, and enjoy the rest of your week's end.